everyone's gonna get mad at me, but I really didn't like this.
No, it's fine. Keep going.
But the reason that I didn't like it is because I didn't feel like it had any stakes from a storytelling perspective. I never felt like anything bad was ever going to happen to Benedetta. Like I felt like through the whole thing that she was always going to get away with it. As soon as she got away with saying the Virgin Mary talks to me and the bird shit in the dude's eye, I was just like, well, that's it. She's
just time out on that one comment for just
Okay, hold on.
because that's why I watch Paul Verhoeven movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. But the thing is, like, my problem with this movie is that I feel like this comes into a really interesting thing with Verhoeven that I think has gotten better and worse over the course of his career. Is there's only two kinds of characters in his movies: characters who are extraordinarily punished and characters who nothing bad ever happens to. And Benedetta is one of the first protagonists I can think of in one of his movies that nothing bad ever happens to.
Can you expound on that a little bit? That you think that there's these two categories in other films, like do L or do
RoboCop.
Recall? Or
No, I'll give you that. There's similarities between her going through this film and, say, Nomi Malone going through Showgirls, because nothing bad really happens to her. And
Right.
yeah, and
Which I think this movie most closely resembles.
in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways.
Nothing bad happens to Robert Davi's character in Showgirls either. Like, there's people who get out completely unscathed in all of these. The CEO from RoboCop, all he gets is a gun pointed at his head for like 2 seconds, and then he fires him. The guy gets shot and goes out the window. Like, there's so many people who have consequence-free existence in this world that's nothing but consequences for people. Casper Van Dien's character in Starship Troopers is a perfect example. Like,
he failed upwards. Yeah.
Nothing particularly bad happens to him. He gets kicked out of the Space Marines for 20 seconds, but by the time I think all of the trouble that happens to her is self-inflicted. And that, to me, doesn't provide for much of me caring about the character.
No, she's wily. She's a wily character, and
she's a wily character, and that's like, I think this movie's really well written. That's one thing I will say about this movie is I think there's a lot of stuff in this movie, kind of top to bottom, that's really well written. One of my favorite parts in it is the first time that they have sex. And when she finally orgasms at the end of it, she grabs Bartolomea by the head and says, "Oh, Jesus." And like, that is definitely supposed to work on both levels.
Sure.
Like that's like, that kind of thing I think is really cool. The part where she tells Bartolomea that she's beautiful, and she keeps talking and then stops and goes, "Wait, I'm beautiful?" And she's like, "Well, you don't know." And she goes, "We never had a mirror."
Right.
Wow.
Like, that's really good writing.
It is.
That's really good writing. And the Nuncio's last words when he's like, "Am I going to heaven or hell?" And she's like, "You're going to heaven." And he goes, "You lie to the end."
Good scene.
That's like, that was great.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like this guy, the Merovingian. Playing a Merovingian, I think.
That is one of my notes in this, is literally just Lambert Wilson. Like,
Lambert
that's
Wilson,
my note, because I'm always excited to see
Lambert
him in
Wilson's
something.
perfect in this.
Speaking of mirrors, there's one moment where she puts the tray up and uses it as a mirror to look at her breasts.
Yeah. Although it's
really
interesting you bring that up about sexuality of Benedetta, because I get the feeling throughout the film that she did not feel it was sinful. You know, she was kind of worried that that people would see it that way, but
so
she had a weird sensual, almost like kind of like a charismatic.
Well, Bartolomea has that line near the end about, "You don't love God, you don't love anybody but yourself."
So well, yeah, he says that, but I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't know if
this is an interesting thing that I was going to wait until later on to bring up, but since you breached the subject, I'm going to bring it up. In this period of time, the Catholic Church's ideas about homosexuality were a little bit different from what we might think of now. And the way you can tell that is what Benedetta is charged with at the end of the movie. She's charged with blasphemy and bestiality.
Yeah, I was
And
wondering about that.
Bestiality at the time did not mean what we think of it as English speakers do today. It meant being as animals are.
Oh.
And in that sense, it is the breaking of the heteronormative covenant of a man penetrates a woman.
Right.
Male on male sex was always considered to be a sin, a mortal sin by the Catholic Church, because a man would penetrate a man all the time. Female on female sex was not considered a mortal sin unless there was an implement that was a stand-in for the penis.
Aha.
Because
that explains the smoking gun,
women
Yes.
couldn't penetrate each other without
Well, that
a tool.
that
and
that seems right in this, because there's that one line where she's on trial and he says something about lesbianism. He says, "What are you kidding? That's not even a thing." It's
Right.
like
Women can't love each other.
Women can't be attracted to other women.
Yeah.
It's not even in their. They don't even think it's possible.
Right.
It's on their imagination.
And
They
this
say
is
people
why
you didn't used to be able to see the color purple either.
this is why there's so many stories about lesbian nuns, because nun lesbianism was much more accepted through the course of Catholic history, because as long as you could pretend that they weren't penetrating each other, that was not a mortal sin. And then also,
It's
if
kind
you
of like
go
the
back,
equivalent of having a volleyball team, I bet.
well, yeah, and if you go back to Leviticus, where they're talking, which is where a lot of this comes from, you're talking about spilling your seed on the ground. They don't have seed to spill. So
Right.
like, that's not another thing that needs to be brought up in here. The whole thing is that women and men were treated differently in this time. And it is when the phallus is introduced into the story that it actually becomes a real problem for them. And I think that's really interesting that someone, I don't know if it was Verhoeven or who, while going through the pop history book that this is based on, really latched onto that idea and
Right.
carried it through the entire movie.
Oh.
So
Can we take a moment to appreciate the scene where it's when you first see it, it's seemingly Jesus and he's chopping motherfuckers up with a sword from a horse.
That was odd, man.
Yeah,
That was Verhoeven.
First
that
of
was
all,
a very Verhoeven.
Yeah.
that is the most Verhoeven.
Yeah.
That was the most badass. I was like, where has this depiction of Jesus been in cinema my whole lot? Like,
It's in the minds of a lot of
cinema.
Southern white people.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Also, one of my other notes was fake comet.
Yeah,
Well, they did
Both
their
of
best
these
in that.
movies have the fakest fucking skies you'll ever see.
What?
For
How
sure.
soon? How soon? I had the most realistic effects I've ever seen in my life.
The thing is, like,
Should have been here
effect-
20 minutes ago.
the effect itself was phony looking because it was like this all red and this comet like that. But the reverse angles, like in the courtyard and such, were really
It's a-
spooky.
the red light shining
The
down
red
on them.
list-
Well,
and looking up, there's
No
this-
comet in the world has ever
No,
looked
But
like.
that baleful red light, just you can it
Yeah.
kind of heightened it a bit.
If it
kinda
was this
knocked-
close and this bright, we'd all be dead.
Yeah,
it wasn't near the earth. It was over.
it was like a 10
France.
Commandments kind of thing, you know.
Right.
This whole
Very-
movie,
Well,
though,
specifically,
Life
they say
force.
this.
the cinematography in this movie, though, is fucking top notch, dude.
It is really well done.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
this
looks
is-
good.
That's my whole problem with this, is just that I felt like the film set it up to be consequence free for Benedetta, and if it hadn't, I think I would have been 100% on board with this. Like, I just felt like I never felt like she was in any peril, and the only people I ever felt peril for all got really fucked up in the movie.
Mhm.
So it was just like, oh, even they don't.
I mean,
get
she is
any-
tied to a stake about to be burned.
Yeah, but what happens?
Sure, but you didn't really expect it to happen, right?
But her accuser
At
gets
that point, I
killed, or-
did, because they
I
were
don't
all
know.
literally, they scream
saw
death
how
to the
the devil
nuncio
did.
as they're bringing her out. They
Right.
scream death to the nuncio. Like, it just never feels like she's going to. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
because this particular actress whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, even though we've seen a couple of things with her.
She was in the other Verhoeven movie we watched.
Yes, she was in
in
Elle.
Elle, yeah.
She's the wife of the rapist in Elle.
Right.
Oh,
God bless
Um,
these actresses.
I did not
just
even
wanna
make
say.
that connection. That's great.
I feel like Verhoeven has a specific eye for her among other people, and it just felt like I'm never going to let anything bad happen to this person over the course of the movie.
No, you're right. It's just a little bit like the Odyssey. It's
Maybe
like,
that's why this
film.
bounced off me.
What he was saying is like this is a clever Odysseus story where he's always she's always outwinning everybody all the time.
Yeah.
He's able to change. The thing is like that's kind of the thing. It's also a little bit like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, except with
It is absolutely like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'm glad I made the analogy that this film was like Ferris Bueller's Day
I gotta
Off.
think about that for a second.
No, it's exactly it is.
Again, he lives a consequence-free life.
in the middle. And
Yeah,
yeah. So that's the thing,
That's
right?
funny. Maybe
Who
that's why
keeps-
this whole thing kind of bounced off me. But Sheila
Well, if
watched it.
you,
And the other thing is that it was so hyped up for me to be this transgressive. Oh my God, it's Paul Verhoeven doing his thing. You know, it's lesbian nuns. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be blasphemous. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess Jesus
Oh,
killed
that
some guy with some
fucking-
swords. There's some lesbian scenes.
I hate this.
That was all right.
I hate this character of Benedetta way less than I hate Ferris Bueller. He is a putrid,
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
selfish piece of
Oh, no.
shit.
We
Dude.
should
The
do a
thing is-
sidebar on
the
how much
thing
we
is
all
about-
hate Ferris Bueller.
The thing about Benedetta is no matter what you think about her motivations are 100% solid the entire time. She thinks this is the right way to be a nun, to be a bride of Christ. Like she's 100% on board with what she's doing. In her mind,
She's not conflicted.
Right.
No, there's multiple times where you almost think she's going to admit, or, you know, when she finally gets down to being like, okay, yes, I have relations with my friend, but it's also through God and because of God, and that's how God wants me to be, rather than just admitting, yeah, you know,
my universal love is through Bartolomeo.
Right. And you're just like, holy shit, this woman is sticking to her guns, like no matter what.
Hey man, we see worse cognitive dissonance on the nightly news.
Well, but what is she? But everything that she does, every time that she intervenes with one of her miracles, it is essentially to protect people.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing at the base of this is a story about the plague coming to Italy at this point, and everything that she has done is to protect this town and these people, which is why they revolt and save her at the end, because they look at her and go,
also a very convincing
She's on our
aspect.
side.
Well, it don't bring it up, but it's a question of faith. You know that is she a huckster, or does she really believe in Jesus?
She believes that what she's doing is right.
I think
regardless of anything else,
what she's doing is that she believes that she's being guided by God at all times.
Even when she manufactures her own stigmata with a.
This is God's will. Me faking my stigmata. It's like we do that. Anything's possible.
She also
by the way, Verhoeven walks that line. He never shows you shows you her cutting herself with the glass,
which is
you
neat.
See the wounds. You see the piece of glass on the ground. There is that scene when she's a child and the statue falls, and for some reason doesn't crush her. And that to me is like the only thing in the whole movie which looks unequivocally like a miracle.
Which is great because that happens, and then what she's confronted with a giant carved boob.
But she sure does a really tremendous job. Benedetta does a tremendous job though, selling it, or at least channeling what she believes in with that voice, which is pretty.
I wish there had been
scary.
one moment of that voice early in the movie. I wish there had been one moment where it was like that just broke out somewhere.
Yeah,
like she would. Like maybe when she's telling Bartolomeo to get the spindles out of the
boiling water. Yeah.
If she had sort of like drifted into that voice while she was doing that,
use
like,
the Dune voice, the Benedict.
That was kind of the Bene Gesserit voice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but it was neat because it was Paul Verhoeven, putting the coin on the edge. It's like
was that just the actress lowering her voice? What was going on there? You think?
I haven't seen anything about that.
That's I mean, what I think it probably was is the actress doing something with her voice on set, and then of course in post they just moved it
tweaked the
down a
bass
little
bit,
bit.
Well,
Yeah.
they could have separately mic'd her too, so you can pull that one audio channel out. And
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
But I don't think it was ADR because the sync was so good
right.
Yeah.
that I think
Although
that they,
ADR
it's the
sync,
same thing
ADR
with that.
sync has gotten so good.
it
these
is, it has
days.
gotten really good, but even spatially, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
ADR, even when it's synced
That's
up,
why I think it was probably a separate mic and they pulled that
Yeah.
channel out.
right.
you
And
know.
then the audio and editor messed with but she probably did something, and then they
Yeah.
made it even.
Probably did it all.
You know, this
herself,
is one of those
too.
films they ADR the entire film, so it doesn't really matter. So every single second was of this film was re-recorded, so I'm not worried about that. Unlike The Weekend, which was not. So this has a much bigger budget. I don't know how he does it, but this has a fairly big budget.
Well, there was plenty of countries that worked on this, or at least
Yeah,
plenty
it's
of
not half of
aspects
Europe.
of.
It's not half of Europe production again.
Yeah.
My version
Sure
of it,
look-
all
sure
of
looked
the,
good.
my version of it is all of the credits were in German.
German or Dutch?
German.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
Yeah, I don't.
Mhm.
It was just like, oh, okay. And then it took me about halfway through the credits to be like, why is this in German?
Yeah.
But okay.
All right, whatever.
Also, this French movie that's set in Italy where everyone's speaking French, but also sometimes speaking German and also sometimes speaking Latin. It was a lot
a
of
little confusing. Yeah.
a lot of as someone who can oftentimes like look away from a French film and at least kind of understand what's going on, there's definitely a lot of times where I was like, what the fuck did you just say? And I can back it up. Like,
All right. Well, I guess.
Well,
No, I'll wait for Jared, then I'll go.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
David.
Okay. I know Chris is okay. So Chris, we're gonna go with the whole like, why did you pick these, right?
No, I didn't see either one of these movies, and so all right, I'll just say, this is for me. This is Verhoeven doing what Verhoeven fucking does. Like I wrote down once
for
again,
better or worse.
once again, this is A-class grindcore exploitation.
Mhm.
Is it like what he does on this, and RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, like he threads this line where it looks great, it's well shot. Like this looks like an A-list big Hollywood production, but it is right on the line. Like you dial it 10 degrees in the other direction, then this is a softcore porno movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like that's his shtick. It's like he gets you to watch a high class, just right on the knife edge of softcore porn.
Yeah.
And sometimes that porn is snuff films.
Sure.
And that's
And
one of the reasons I love him.
found this. I mean, I think it's
RoboCop's one of my favorite movies of all time.
ditto. Like I
Same.
love almost everything I just rattled off on this list unconditionally.
Me too. In fact, because of Scott, I absolutely.
He's
adore-
another
I
ture.
love Showgirls now too. Like
Yeah, well,
Showgirls.
Yeah.
Although
If you look at Showgirls as an allegory, it's fucking brilliant.
there's a move that he does in a lot of his movies. It's during just when sexy times about to start, where we'll have the kind of the dominant of the pair take the other person's shirt, put it over their head, and then start groping them. That happened in Starship Troopers. That happened in Showgirls. That happened in Basic Instinct, and it happened here. That's his favorite.
Yeah, because it's
favorite
well, it's
his
kind
move.
of.
You better cut all of those,
I'm
the
going. Oh
heads
my
with
god!
the
I got a
shirts
lot of
over it.
research
You
to do.
better-
Like,
No, that's good. That's good. Well, it's kind of
Let's
hot,
see clips.
right? It's like being blindfolded, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of like
yeah, it is. He loves that blindfolding thing. It's like it's really fun. But
Yeah, he's got some real
Okay.
Dutch Catholic shit going on.
oh yeah.
John, like I kind of get that this sort of bounced off you. It sort of bounced off me, but then I guess I just wasn't expecting anything other than Verhoeven doing his fucking shtick.
Same here. I
Because
do.
All you have to do is look at
to
that
me-
fucking poster they put out where it's just
Yeah.
like blah 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 violence, blah 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 sex, blah blah blah, and it's just like fuck you, like
Uh-huh.
shut up.
I know.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, it was a little overhyped for me by the time I got to it. It was like, yeah, okay, there's some lesbian scenes and there's some, weird shit with Jesus and some miracles
I
and
guess
whatever.
if I was a really,
There's that one real weird
if
masturbation
I was,
scene.
if any of us, I think were really religious.
Just
this
show
would
me your
freak
breasts.
the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like this probably is designed to offend millions of people.
Yeah. It certainly would make other people's heads explode for sure.
As somebody who grew up pretty religious, I don't feel like this would have offended that version of me. Like,
Yeah.
No, but yeah,
to me, this would have just been like, oh yeah, the atheists are trying to do a thing. You know,
I'm
like
not,
Right.
yeah, I'm not,
To
I
me,
grew
to
up,
me, L was much more engrossing, much more transgressive,
That to me was the
much more
least
interesting.
Verhoeven- that's the least Verhoeven movie I've ever seen.
me neither. And when
Never mind.
like when they were taking shits together, I was like, I love this movie. Like this is amazing. Like
On board in the first act, yes.
and they just they have to grab straw and like
Yes.
I'm like, this
Hey,
is awesome.
at least they
Welcome
have
to the Middle
straw.
Ages, man.
At least they have
Bartolomeo's
straw.
trying to get up and walk away without doing anything, and Benedetta's
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
the straw.
Um,
Yeah, that was actually a character revealer because
And I
Again,
agree with
good
you.
writing.
yeah,
I
she
agree
was
with you guys. The
basically
writing-
a mud hut. Basically.
I was just thinking, man, you
Really
better
solid.
take an allergy pill after that or something.
I mean, it's better
Yeah.
than three fucking seashells. That's all I'm saying.
Verhoeven never misses an opportunity, I think, to like, what could I do here to just kind of fuck with people? Oh, I'm gonna go take a shit.
yeah.
Like,
Just brilliant.
Well, it
brilliant
doesn't
choices.
advance the story. I think it's there to just wind up the audience.
When
Yeah, I
when
can't,
Bartolomea pulls her cassock off of the end of the bed
Yeah.
and then stands there and waits until she comes over and leans down to pick it up, and then she's
Yeah.
like, I saw your breasts. Like, it's like, that's such a good like young person flirting move too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, good point.
it's like a
Good
joke.
point.
It's like it's two early lovers who are messing with each other in the bedroom.
well,
Like,
and then they have
that mischief.
the amazing part after they're laying in bed together, and she has the vision and all of that, where they both reach out and touch the screen between them, but in two different times. They don't touch hands while they're doing it, but they both do basically the same touch of the screen. Like, that's them becoming connected. It's going from the like, you know, kid has a crush on somebody thing to like kind of two adults who are starting to have a relationship together, you know. And I thought that was really, I thought that was again, there's so many things I liked about this movie, and I just wish I liked the movie.
I also liked the when she says, you know, touch my heart. He put a bigger heart in me, and it's just it's all sexual in reality and in physicality.
That's that same scene. That's the earlier part in that scene. Yeah.
Right. But
also
to
a big,
Benedetta,
deal,
it's
big
like,
deal apparently the backstory, because her getting, we're saying that Jesus gave her a new heart and it was larger, was a big deal back, you know, historically speaking. That was like when the signs of a
And this
miracle,
was,
basically. You know,
and this was a true story, right? This is a true story.
more or less.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Based
Allegedly.
on, yeah.
Based on.
based on, yeah.
Yeah.
They probably weren't as hot back then, but you know, yeah.
I did think the performances were overall just across the board all
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
All good.
very good. The acting is tremendous.
Technically, performances, music, cinematography, like it's all solid. It's just in the service of, like, had anybody else made this movie, it would have been so boring.
Yeah. Verhoeven knows how to bring his version of bonkers. This whole thing.
Verhoeven's it, and
Yeah.
suddenly it's like titillating and prurient, and but like it goes left when you think it's going to go right, and I love all that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, I guess we can do thumbs at this point.
I'll give it a
Right. That was pretty good. Although I thought remember the trailer when it first came out, we all thought it was from Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, well, it
Yeah.
is basically that movie.
It is, it is.
Times.
I thought
This
it was
is a
about a-
sad. This is a sad kind of down for me. Like,
Yeah.
it's,
What's that called? The Devil's something or other.
Like you could do like this
Devil's
is me
Alley.
liking wanting to film.
Devil's
this is me
Alley?
actually not liking.
I wanted to like
yeah,
it. Right?
basic, yeah.